Dan, I think I've heard you have some opinions on Mormonism, and I'm not sure that's a rumor.
Well,
I've heard, but
I was raised in the Mormon religion, and I don't know if you know this, but that is, I am assured, the one true religion. So
is it now?
It is.
Okay.
I was told that many times by many different people. So yeah, sorry everybody. Sorry all you other religious people, but Mormonism, turns out that was the real one.
Huh. Okay.
And yet strangely I left it.
Strange, because the Baptists that I grew up with definitely told me that you guys had it wrong. So I'm a little confused.
Weird, right?
We might need to go to the library to check this one out.
Somebody should figure this out. It feels like you guys don't have your act together, you religious folks.
Yeah.
It feels like maybe you're all just making it all up. But yeah, I was born and raised Mormon. Both my parents actually were historians in the Mormon Church. Both actual intellectuals, Mormon intellectuals do exist. That's a real thing. And so, but a Mormon, sort of the intellectual wing is a much more liberal side of things. So I wasn't raised in the dark orthodoxy that lurks in here in Utah. I got to know the church real well. Both my parents worked for the church. And it turns out I don't believe it. So that was a problem. That had to be
You
resolved.
don't believe in the one true religion.
I know, it's weird. You would think that I would just that it would be obvious, but it's funny because leaving a high intensity church like that, you can call it a cult if you want to. There are lots of different definitions of cults, so I tend to just say a high intensity church, where they take up a lot of your time, demand a lot of your energy and of your time and of your money.
Yeah, for sure.
And they do well with the money part. I don't know if you caught that that's a $150 some odd billion organization.
Yeah,
chilling with that money.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how I feel like we talk. More people are aware of like the Catholic Church being really big landowners. I don't feel like people know as much about the Mormon Church being like gigantic landowners too. You know,
the Mormon Church. Did you know that the Mormon Church owns 2% of Florida?
I think I've heard that. I think I've heard you say that.
There's literally no rhyme or reason to it. They own a whole bunch of ranches in Australia. And
not even the Disneyland part, the Disney World parts.
Right. No, not that. No.
Yeah.
But I mean, Disney wishes they had the kind of cash that the Mormon Church has.
Yeah.
So, and the $150 billion that I quoted you, I mean, 150 to 150 or 100 to 150, that's not even including their land. That is just investment property or investment portfolios.
Wow. Okay. So
the land is a totally different thing. Who knows how much they're worth?
So is that also including buildings and like other stuff in that, or
no? That figure is, so the 100 billion. There was a figure that came out that was 100 billion, and that was just in one investment firm that they own, one sort of hedge fund that they run. So this one fund had 100 billion, and that's just in like the stock market, in the markets. That's not in like real estate.
So pure investment, just pure. Okay, yeah, okay, gotcha. I understand.
So, and then add to that all of the land, all of the things that they own. They own a $2 billion mall downtown Salt Lake City. Why do they own a mall? Why does the church own a mall?
I was about to ask you that. What's the end game here, Dan? What are they planning? Is it just return on ROI? Just return on investment?
It's funny because what they claimed was, because here's the thing. Yeah. We know that like the reason that they don't have to pay taxes, right, is because they are a non-profit organization, and a non-profit organization means that they're supposed to take money that they bring in and use it for the purpose that, for their mission, which in this case should be serving the community, serving their own community. And, you're allowed to have a little bit of a slush fund for problems that arise or whatever.
Sure.
Mitt Romney called that $150 billion a rainy day fund. Bitch,
Okay.
that's Noah's rainy day fund. That is
Yeah.
that is a hell of a rainy day.
That's a flood fund for sure.
Yeah, that is a diluvian fund right there.
Yeah. Wow.
So
I didn't know that he said that about that
yeah.
those investments. That's really crazy. Mormonism as a cultural force in this country is just really interesting because I grew up in Texas and I don't know specifically in the central Texas area. And I don't think like I knew like one Mormon kid growing up, I think. And so like I didn't really know a whole lot about what it was about. It's funny because until I started deconstructing my own faith is when I started kind of looking into all the other stuff and just realizing just like the fact that you have your own historians, like, that's interesting. Yeah. As far as like, I wonder what happens when things don't align in certain ways when that comes up. It's so weird. There's just a different culture and mindset there that you see with other Christian denominations. And I don't know if people outside the US really get that as much either, because I don't know how the Mormon presence is in other countries outside of the US. So,
it's fun. One of the interesting things about Mormonism is that it's so centralized. So, if you look at Baptists, there's a sort of loose connection between Baptist churches, but it's not like there's no central organization that can command everyone to do something and they all just snap to.
Yeah.
But Mormonism has always been a completely top-down organization. And, they have a prophet who is their, it's God's mouthpiece on earth. And there's just something very special about that. It means that they can have an organizational structure that includes things like, a history department, which then started finding things that made everybody very uncomfortable. And then suddenly they didn't have a history department anymore, or it was wildly changed. And my mom was sent to work at BYU as a professor rather than being being a history department. It changed everything.
Yeah.
And they fired a bunch of people for publishing stuff that was just true, but maybe not so faith promoting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I should I think I should clarify too, because I don't think it's unusual for a religious organization to have its own historians. Like obviously like Mormons aren't unique in that, but it is just kind of funny in the sense that just Mormonism is just so new.
Yeah.
It's also just like
you're telling me you're looking back all the way to 1830?
Yeah. Like I feel like that could be
dizzying amounts of history there.
Yeah, and some other stuff there, and also like just the actual history, and I say actual in the sense that like the secular codified history of can I call it Joseph Smith's misadventures is just really fascinating. We definitely don't have time to talk about all of that, and obviously we've talked about it on other shows before, but like it's weird. Like the fact that we know as much as we do just kind of makes me wonder, what about all the older religions that we don't know as much of, and how we got to where we are today with that? You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's funny because Mormonism has their own scriptures and stuff. And so there is extra wackiness to Mormonism, but it's no stupider than any other regular Christianity. If you read the Bible, you get just as much dumb as if you read the Book of Mormon. Yeah, it might be a little less boring than the Book of Mormon, which I think Mark Twain called it chloroform in print.
Yeah.
But
it's quite a book. I hear, it's quite a book. I don't think I've actually sat down and read it myself. I've only ever heard atheist commentators probably make fun of it in skits and recreations, and maybe.
I promise you're not missing anything.
Yeah, I'm not missing much. Okay,
really don't need to read it. It will not help you.
I'll wait for the. Well, I'm sure there's plenty of movies.
There was a movie. There was somebody had decided that they were going to make the movies of the Book of Mormon. It's a long book. It is a decidedly long book. So they started, So they made one. It's called the Book of Mormon, and I actually went on, the God Awful Movies podcast.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So we actually went on the God Awful Movies, and if you can find it, it's way back in the back catalog. But
yes, in fact, that's what I was referencing when I was saying I've only heard recreations of people talking about it, because I think I've exclusively heard you and other ex-Mormon podcasters really talk about it, which is definitely biased on my part. I should do more research on.
You really don't have to. I
to be
100% give you permission not to do
just to skip it.
any no, just don't even bother. We've done the research for you.
I think the Jewish submarine theory has a lot of merit to it. Okay,
why
potentially?
Not?
I don't know.
Why not wooden submarines that traveled from Judea to the Americas?
Right?
How can you prove that it didn't happen? Objectively, Dan. Prove it.
You got me. I can't. Before we get to callers here, I also want you to give you just a quick explanation on what is Thank God I'm Atheist, the podcast, and what is it that you guys do on there?
So it's basically a current events show. We talk about sort of what's happening in the world and look at the news from an atheist perspective. We keep it lighthearted. We are not quite as scathing as some other shows that do the similar things, but we
are you as thinking as other
we have various attributes. I'm not going to say all of them, but yeah, I mean, we like to keep it fun, and we do delve into some Mormon stuff sometimes, which I think is a lot of fun, because they are a wacky group of people. And Frank, my co-host, he also was raised Mormon. He went on a Mormon mission. I got out before I had to go on a mission, but he went on the mission, spent 2 years in Rome trying to convince Romans. Let me tell you something. Romans are kind of decided on the point of religion. Like, they've figured out where they stand, religiously speaking. But he was out there trying to make them Mormons. Which didn't work out great for him.
It's interesting. I went to a ex-Mormon hangout. I had a friend who's ex-Mormon, and he was just wanted me to come along. That was here in Austin, and just the way that the ex-Mormons I talked about their Mormonism was like talking to almost like a war veteran is the vibe that I got. It was just kind of sad, and only in the sense that, like, I don't know, because you have to go on, like, I guess you don't have to go on missions, but it's heavily encouraged that you go on missions. You got to dedicate just a lot more than the average Christian does to the belief. And I can see how that can take sort of a mental toll when you kind of leave that, They demand everything of you.
Yeah.
It is.
And you don't even necessarily notice that that's what's happening while you're in it. You just think it's normal to go to 3 hours of church every Sunday, and then, 2 activities during the week. And, once a month you go and you do another thing. And you've also got callings in the church, because their entire clergy, it's all staffed with just members of the church. So the guy who's the bishop, who's, that's basically the equivalent of the pastor or the parish priest. That guy has a full-time job. That guy's just a dude in the neighborhood who is called of God to do this job for, 4 years or whatever it is. It's high demand.
Doesn't get a 501k. Doesn't get
no. You got to be way up there to start to get your share of the cash. No, that guy's paying 10% of his income for the privilege.
Yeah. Wow. That's, I can see how that could be hard, especially hard to leave, especially like after you've been so invested just in that world. So shout outs to all of my ex-Mormon listeners of this show. You guys rock. And thanks so much, Dan, for being on the show.